You see John Smith, the 6-time consecutive world and Olympic champion, in the picture. Like many American wrestlers, he prefers to wrestle with his opponents while maintaining distance. Jordan Burroughs, another well-known American, also prefers wrestling in a completely separate manner more than any other wrestler. The separate free phase is one of the 3 main wrestling states. A state with minimal physical contact between 2 opponents. In this phase, the wrestler can independently change position, regardless of the opponent, to create space for the best opportunity to execute a technique. Ismail Musukov, the best freestyle wrestler in 2023, is a prime example of this phase. He positions himself at the safest distance from his opponent to maintain enough space for agility and mobility. He, who has won the most competitive Olympic weight class, strategically while maintaining distance, can identify the best time to attack. Actually, while maintaining distance, he either directly attack to gain points or, with an open and deceptive level position, he has capitalized on his opponent's counterattacks. For Musukov, the wrestling phase from the wrestling level position holds greater importance. And in the second phase of the wrestling, face-off phase, or collar tie phase. At this phase, the 2 wrestlers have equal control over each other, with neither having absolute dominance over the others. Contrary to the first phase, in this phase, free and independent movements are equally limited for both. Despite the vigorous nature of the third phase that we will delve into later, the second phase proceeds more calmly. Let's examine the reason behind this calmness. At the first stage, the center of gravity of the force is located in the lumbar region and leads to increased fatigue of its muscles. However, with the displacement of forces towards the center between the 2 opponents, there will be an opportunity for the lower back muscles to rest. As a result, the collar tie phase is a brief pause for regaining strength and changing strategy. The calm of the collar tie phase is fragile, like the calm before the storm. Describing the final phase of wrestling is necessary to convey the concept of wrestling rhythm. Despite the collar tie, where the heads are facing each other. In the third phase, the heads have crossed over and overlapped. The wrestlers are in close body-to-body contact with each other. Undoubtedly, Bavez Arsayev, more than any other wrestler in history, it can be a perfect example of this phase of wrestling. Despite the previous 2 phases, in this phase, one opponent is often more dominant than the other and has more initiative in action. Taking the wrestling flow to this phase requires a lot of energy, and staying in it too long demands both stamina and high skill level. Otherwise, you must execute the techniques of this phase as quickly as possible. Let's see some beautiful moments of technique diversity in this phase. With the opponent's head and hand lock, a brief opportunity for executing a technique emerges. Underhook, hand lock, 2-on-1, arm lock. And various other situations that shape the third phase of the wrestling. The third phase of wrestling, the clinch phase. Now, with these 3 wrestling phases, we can delve into the concept of the rhythm or cadence of wrestling. The rhythm of wrestling takes shape through the process of transitioning between wrestling phases throughout the course of the match. Let's observe a snippet of the Taylor vs. Yazdani match as an example. The wrestling match is in the collar tie phase. Yazdani transitions the wrestling phase to separate free with a snap down, and then, with the underhook, he goes directly to the clinch phase. Yazdani's fighting rhythm encompasses all 3 phases. On the contrary, Taylor's technique is embedded in the separate free phase. He uses the collar tie phase to control his opponent, rest, and create opportunities. And he tries to evade Yazdani's clinches phases effectively. Ramana Mausad is one of the few wrestlers whose wrestling follows a two-phase rhythm, or goes directly into the clinch. Either he is in the separate free phase, he is not seen in the middle phase.
For producing a video on the 4 divisions of wrestling styles.
This video on the rhythm and phases of wrestling has been a necessary prelude. Wrestling stance, another essential prelude, will also be the subject of the next video.
Stay with us for the most scientific and comprehensive breakdown of wrestling styles.